and be able to start cutting out these roads, and that was a high scaler's job. These gentlemen tied themselves on ropes, lowered themselves down the canyon, and actually hung off these canyon walls and started the initial blasting and drilling to the project.
400 high scalers worked for 2 years on the canyon walls. Meantime, the most difficult task began: rerouting the Colorado River so the dam's foundation could be built on the dry bedrock beneath it. How'd they do that?
In order to move the river, we had to build tunnels around the site where the dam would eventually be constructed. These tunnels are called diversion tunnels. They're dug at the level of the river, and once they're finished, you put a dam just upstream of the construction site.
And to get all 4 of them completed in a minimum amount of time, a special rig was built called the Jumbo. It was a series of scaffolding placed upon a tractor, and at each level they had workmen with drills. They'd get at these levels, drill it out, set the dynamite, and then they would ignite the dynamite, blast it out, and go in with front-end loaders and remove the debris.
By November of 1932, they'd blasted through 4 million tons of rock. And with 2 of the diversion tunnels complete, the water rose to the mouth of the tunnels and the Colorado River changed course. The riverbed was laid bare. Now they could begin to pour the dam. How'd they do it? It was built as a series of 230 vertical columns, each 25 to 60 feet across.
The construction of the dam with these lifts of concrete then is almost akin to building blocks. I've heard it likened to Legos, but we manufacture the Lego block as we go, setting a form, filling it full of concrete, waiting for it to set, and continue this way, stacking up these blocks to build the whole structure.
96 men died building it, but on March 1st, 1936, 2 years ahead of schedule and 5 years after they'd begun, Hoover Dam was finished. The water behind the dam slowly began to rise, and 6 years, 6 months, and 6 days later, the reservoir was full. Inside the world's greatest engineering marvel, thousands of megawatts of electricity came online. How do they maintain the dam and power plant today?
The difficulty in maintaining a facility like Hoover Dam is that the things that we need to keep this place operated and maintained are not things you can just run by at Ace Hardware. We have a technology that spans 70 years here.
250 people work round the clock, 365 days a year, to keep everything in the plant humming. Maintenance here is anything but routine. Take the generators, for example. Each one has over 1 million moving parts, almost all made in the 1920s.
Part of the task of maintenance is to replace things as they grow obsolete, but in some of the large machinery there's no such thing as obsolescence. We just keep fixing them.
How do they do that? In their own machine shop, a shop seemingly built for giants. Here, ordinary-sized men grapple with lathes big enough to carve a redwood, nuts and bolts weighing hundreds of pounds, and wrenches that would strain a weightlifter.
The point to be made is that things here are so big, the scale is so large, that normal methods just don't get it.
What about the dam itself? How do they make sure it doesn't fail? Periodically, frogmen dive to the bottom of the spillways and examine the concrete with enormous flashlights.
High overhead, a crane lowers a man outfitted in mountain climbing gear to look for cracks. And inside the dam itself are dizzying staircases and miles of inspection tunnels that enable engineers to check every inch of the structure.
Surprisingly, if they find a puddle, nobody panics. You see, the dam leaks 200 gallons of water every minute on purpose.
It was built in blocks. It's designed to leak. If it doesn't leak, some structural problems can occur. So there is a normal amount of seepage, and it's controlled seepage.
In over a half a century, they've never found anything worth worrying about, and they doubt they ever will.
This is here forever. It's not going to move. The mountains may wear down, and the concrete may wear down with it, but it's not going to crack and disappear.
Gambling and entertainment aren't the only reasons people come to Vegas. They also flock here by the thousands to get married.
In fact, Dorothy, the phone book dedicates 12 full pages to places where you can be pronounced husband and wife, but one woman gets more calls than them all. Her name is Charlotte Richards, and around here they call her the wedding queen of the world.
Charlotte has married more than 500,000 people. Here's how she does it.
In sickness and in health.
Power and to respect.
until death do us part.
To be able to deal with such high volume, Charlotte has designed a unique system. You could call it an assembly line for matrimony. Each and every day, her 11 limousines make up to 100 pickups. Her floral department, with a full-time staff of 3, designs and creates 150 arrangements. A local bakery provides wedding cakes instantly, and Charlotte doles out dozens of her 200 wedding gowns and 500 tuxedos. From her nerve center here on the Strip, Charlotte directs the operations of the 5 wedding chapels that she owns. Just how efficient is she?
If you were to call me from, let's say, your hotel room right now, I'd have a limousine there in 10 minutes, take you to the license bureau to get your license, get your wedding gown, tuxedo, back to the chapel for your wedding, and back to your hotel in an hour's time.
How did Charlotte become the wedding queen of the world? Well, she'll marry anyone, anytime, anywhere, except...
I would never marry anyone that's intoxicated, and I would never marry anyone that doesn't have clothes on. And yes, I have been asked.
Charlotte is sort of like the McDonald's of love, serving up I do's 24 hours a day, making it so convenient you don't even have to leave your car.
This, of course, is the only drive-up wedding window in the world. And it's one way you can get married.
And it only costs $30. But if you're really in the mood to splurge, you can have Charlotte and the chapel come to you. The cost, $55.
If driving down the Strip in a pink and white motorhome with an Elvis look-alike serenading you is not romantic enough, Charlotte's web of love covers anything you want.
Whether it's the top of a water slide,
A hot air balloon,
in a gorilla suit,
dressed as Batman and Catwoman,
on a Ferris wheel,
or for $250 in a helicopter with the king.
And by the power vested in me by the state of Nevada, I now pronounce you husband and wife over the Stardust and over the Circus Hotel.
How does Charlotte coordinate it all? She employs 7 full-time ministers, a dispatcher, 30 hosts and hostesses, and of course Mildred, the legendary organist who's been with her since day one.
Mildred is Charlotte's oldest employee and one of the few without a prison record. For the past 10 years, Charlotte has been working with the Nevada State Prison on a work release program. Each day at 4 and 8 p.m., 5 to 7 inmates arrive from a local halfway house to help Charlotte spread her message of love.
Well, when I got out of prison, she was the only one that would give me a job. It was very hard to get a job being an ex-felon in this state. And she was the only one that would help me out and get me going and get me back on my feet.
What's Charlotte's secret? Well, despite performing over 500,000 weddings over the past 35 years for high rollers and just plain folks, she makes each couple feel like their wedding is the most important one she's ever done.
Charlotte has tied the knot for a lot of celebrities, too. There's Bruce Willis and Demi Moore, Frank Sinatra and Mia Farrow, and Mickey Rooney, 4 times.
And a pal of mine walked in here one Saturday in September of 1989 and married his beloved Juanita. Now, you can tell everybody that you were in the chapel, but Michael Jordan got married. We'll be right back.